Are you leaning towards more feature animation or television animation? Feature versus television. Although under the same flag of animation, both have their differences in working for each production. In this video, I'll be talking about my experience from working within these productions in the Hollywood animation industry. Just a disclaimer though, this is coming from my personal experiences and from my perspective, so don't take this as the only source of information for this type of topic. Hey guys, it's Toniko Pantoja, and today I'd like to talk about the differences between working for a feature production and working for a television animation production. Most of my animation career consists of feature work, but I've also done work for television animation and sometimes for smaller studios too. And in order for me to talk about these differences, I have to talk about each of these differences under different subjects. These subjects include budget and production value, not just the quality, but the amount of investment given in the production of the project. Retakes and revisions, how often things are redone and revised for the production. Pipeline, whether the project follows a clear and strict system of workflow step by step in order to get a final picture. Positions and income, whether there's a lot of different positions and how much you get paid by that position, and whether TV or feature pays higher than the other. Work availability, the list of jobs and positions open for that production. Release and credits, how often things come out and how often your name is attached publicly to these projects. And finally, career and personal growth. Do you feel personal growth in the job? Do you feel an inner or emotional growth where you're at within this production? So let's start with production value and budget. So let's talk about feature. In most American productions, the budget is really high for these films. Whether it's for marketing, the names attached, the people involved, the budget is usually and normally incredibly high. But the high investment does affect how we work in the feature animation production. So because of the high investment, there's a lot more room for exploration and experimentation with the animation production itself. In TV, the budget and investment is a bit more limited. So in many cases of the TV productions I've worked at, there's always usually a fixed production value for a TV production. So because of this, the production value is a bit more restrictive and tighter. And this also affects the number of revisions we're allowed to do on a production. And this moves on to my next point, retakes and revisions. In feature productions, you can spend weeks to months on a single sequence or shot. Generally, they're more flexible to revisions because of that budget. And because for feature, you just get one big final thing at the end, there's more investment in a lot of revisions and retakes to find the actual essence of the product itself or the film. However, this also depends on the production itself. I've been on features where the production is super fast, so there's little room for revisions and retakes, but in most cases, there's a lot more room for that. In TV, the amount of retakes and revisions are usually fixed. So for me, I worked as a story artist for Puss in Boots. We had 3 weeks to do a first pass of boarding and then 3 weeks to do some cleanup and corrections. After that was done, we were just moved immediately to another episode while the story revisionist artists take care of adding more fixes to those storyboards. So it's very systematic and also the time is limited. So instead of something going through multiple passes, it usually just moves forward with just a few retakes and revisions. Because you gotta get that episode out. Let's talk about the pipeline. So it's a little more flexible in feature, whereas people from different departments and positions have meetings and they actually communicate with each other. So a character designer will talk to an animator or a story artist in order to find a solution that works best for both worlds. So sometimes I'll work close with an editor or sometimes I'll work close with a previs artist. When I do 2D animation, I usually work really close with the character designer. And we find solutions to make the character design work in the animated world. Just as much as there's more interaction between the departments, there's also a bit more room for the pipeline to be more experimental. So we do things that stray away from the conventional pipeline to achieve a certain effect or style. In TV productions, it's usually conventional and more fixed in the pipeline area. There's a lot of reasons why it's really conventional. For many years, we've outsourced different studios, and the quota and speed for TV productions is usually really high. The process is even stricter. So for example, when I storyboard, I could draw in my style for feature, but in TV, I had to draw more on model, and this is because of the outsourcing studio. Our boards usually directly translate to the layout for the animators to use. So things such as design, proportions, the style, it usually has to stay consistent for the outsourced studio. And because of how fast things go and how fast episodes come out, they usually try and stick to things conventional in their pipeline. Experimenting with that pipeline may be risky and can heavily affect the next few steps down the line in that pipeline. Positions and income. There's usually a belief that feature pays higher than TV. It usually depends on the studio and the amount of levels there are for a certain position. So in the story team for a feature production, there's usually the story team, and then there's one person that's the head of story, which works closely with the director. And they try to manage the whole story team so that their boards are consistent with the movie's direction and vision. In TV, there's a lot more levels. So for the story team, there's the story revisionist, then there's the storyboard artist, making their way up to the supervising story artist, and then eventually an episodic director. Feature story artists and normal storyboard artists in TV kind of make the same amount of money, but it's more common that a story artist in feature makes more money than a storyboard artist in TV. However, an episodic director will make more money than a normal story artist in feature, and may make more income than a head of story in feature. However, it really depends on the production, and it also depends on how that artist negotiated their rates. So don't take my words as a single source of information. Let's talk about work availability. In feature, it's really limited since most films are long-term and they usually like to keep the same artists throughout until the film is finished. A single feature film production can last for 4 years, and some people stay on the production for 4 to 6 years. There are a lot of feature productions, but they aren't as frequent as TV productions. So let's talk about TV productions. TV is seasonal and there's a lot of TV productions, so they're always looking for artists and new hires for their production. There's a lot of tests being sent out from TV productions for potential artists to work with them. They're open to both full-time and freelance artists. But in TV productions, there's this thing called hiatus, which is where you finish your work on a season and you wrap up for the season, meaning that you're not working and you're not getting paid. So artists usually find other jobs and positions for other productions. When a new season gets greenlit, for example, former artists may be called back to work on the project if they want to do that. So in TV, it's both stable and unstable, meaning that there's a lot of jobs positions always open, but when that production ends, you have to find a new production. It's showbiz. Next, I want to talk about release and credits, and this is the thing I really hate about feature animation productions. I've been on several different features that have gotten shelved or canceled due to circumstances I couldn't control. That's months of work and it'll probably never see the light of day. And there are projects that I'll never be able to put on my IMDb list because of that. As for some of the films I have worked on years ago and they're still works in progress, well, it's been 4 years since I've worked on that project and it still hasn't come out. So feature films usually take a long time for it to come out. And it's hard to prove the work I've done for recruiters, for example, if they ask for my resume or for my experience. That's when word of mouth helps me a lot, or my reputation. But other than that, I do wish that I had a better experience when it came to feature productions. The great thing about TV productions is that you know that it's going to come out and it's going to come out soon. You do your job and episodes come in later, but it's not a long wait like in feature. And because of the high quota and the fast turnaround, you work on more episodes, you work on more productions, and you build up credit and experience. You become a lot more confident in your role as whatever artist you are at. Because of the amount of credits that TV artists usually contain, it's easier for them to jump around. And honestly, TV artists have a better advantage of translating to feature, whereas feature artists have a harder time translating to TV. Another thing that I want to point out is that TV usually looks for functionality quicker than in feature, whereas feature is more experimental, they're more trying to find the idea, whereas TV, mouth shapes, character expressions, and character turnarounds as soon as possible. And even things like character design are a lot more streamlined for TV. There's a system to it. And again, most of it is because of the usage of outsourced studios. So as for career and personal growth, that really depends all up to you. A director that I've worked with on a TV production knows that his personal goals are his career and he wants to build up that ladder. So he stays at TV because you can grow your career that way quicker. And you get to be involved in a lot more different projects because of the high and fast turnover. If you really want to spend more time developing the story, learning about story, and learning about revising the process over and over again, then feature might be a good place for you. If you want to learn how to be fast, functional, economic, and effective, I think you should start at TV. Personally, I did wish that I did start at TV. If you want to go to a place that's more experimental, it allows you to be more cinematic, it allows you to actually clean up and finesse your work, feature might be pretty good. If you want to be versatile, so let's say you want to jump between feature and TV a lot, I think TV is also a good place to start because of reasons like I said earlier. It teaches you those skills to be economic and fast, and most important of all, decisive. Whatever production you go into, don't dismiss the hard work that goes into the other production. There's a lot of feature people that look down on TV people, and there are TV people that look down on feature people. Both have their pros and cons. None is really better than the other. It really depends on how you want to work, and it really depends on you as a person. As for me personally, I've come to peace that I don't want my career growth or my personal growth to be dependent on whether it's a feature or TV production. And that's kind of why I love working on personal projects, because there are things in both worlds that won't fulfill my artistic needs or the things that I personally want to do with animation. While some people will base their happiness and success based on where they're at with their career, I'm in the favor of the aspect of just making cool stuff. Anyways, thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.